All right, hi everybody. This is Bourbon and Bass Fishing. Here we are for another episode. Got two great guests on tonight. One of them, he kind of took all my lunch money last year. Got to share a driveway with him at Winnebago. I mean, stand up dude. And the other one, he's he's new this year, new face. He's 19 though, so we felt like we needed to have him on. I thought I was breaking the barrier last year, getting in young. River Lee, I think he was like 23 last year on tour or something. But yeah, this kid takes cake. So we're gonna have them on tonight. As always, want to thank Fully Loaded. They're the title sponsor of the Bourbon and Bass Fishing podcast this year. The title sponsorship of me fishing on tour, and then the real life documentary series that we're filming this year. So should be a fun time. But yeah, no, let's bring them on. So let's get some introductions. I got Timmy Reams here. Timmy, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? What people need
What's
to
up,
know?
guys? Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Timmy Reams. Last year, fished MPFL. It turned out to be a really good year for me after I got my feet underneath of me. First few events were a little so-so, but then after that, we got a little bit of a roll there at the end of the year. So I'm looking forward to this year. Looking forward to see what this kid that's 19 years old can do.
Oh yeah, dude. I saw that post and I was like, "You kidding me?" All right, Chris, what about you? Introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Chris Keeble. I actually the past few years I've been fishing the Toyota series and then kind of went over to the Bassmaster Opens and really excited to have gotten into the National Professional Fishing League this year. So to have that opportunity at my age, I'm extremely grateful for it. Glad to get to fish against such guys like Timmy and Cameron here. Really looking forward to that this year. And in one thing is in the off season, my family's got a fishing lodge down here on Chickamauga, PB Lodge. So I run it, and if I'm not on the water fishing, then I'm up here. I mean, it's my whole life really. So.
Dude, I love Chickamauga. Actually, a lot of my prep this year came off of for this Cumberland event, came off to a trip I took with my buddy after Lake Eufaula last year to Chick. We went there the very next week, and oh man, dude, we wish there was a tournament going on that we could have got into. My buddy and I, we were cranking, we were finding the very minute patches of grass, and dude, the smallest fish we caught all week was 5 pounder.
Oh,
He set his PB twice on the first day we were there, and we were like, oh man, how are we gonna beat this? And it was like the smallest fish all week was 5 pounder. Every day we had like 25, 30 pounds in the boat, and I'm like, dude, I love this place. It's like, can we
man,
go here next year?
man, they don't call it legendary Lake Chickamauga for nothing. I mean,
Oh,
this place has definitely earned its name.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah. But a lot of the stuff when I was researching for Cumberland, it kind of set up similar to some of the stuff I remember from when I was on Chick, and I was like, ooh, I mean, it's going to be 20 degrees colder, but
Well, it's 20 older right here now too, so that may not change too much.
yeah, I was actually going to go pre-fish with Rick Langander for this weekend before the cutoff on Monday, but when we saw those weekend temperatures and they were going to be, yeah, no, we were like, dude, we'll fish one good day. It'll suck. We won't feel our hands. Put the
Mm-hmm.
boat on the trailer, and it's gonna, freeze to the trailer. So the weekend will be over. So we were like, yeah, we'll just save our money and wing it. So here we are filming podcasts instead. But no, like you said you jumped into the Toyotas and Open. So are either one of y'all fishing anything else this year besides the MPFL?
I'm going to fish the Northern Opens as well.
What's schedule look like for that? I haven't looked.
I'm pumped for that schedule. We got two title fisheries, and we go to Oneida, so I'm looking forward to that. And we got the James in April, which will be fun, and then we go to Oneida in the summertime, and then we go to the Upper Bay in September. So
Ooh. That's a interesting time for the Upper Bay.
that's a terrible time.
Yeah,
it's,
I was trying to put it the nice way, but
yeah,
yeah.
it's a bad time, but I enjoy that body of water, so I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that one.
But Oneida, I mean, Oneida's a fun place to go
Oh yeah,
crack
yeah,
them. So,
yeah.
what about you, Chris? You fishing anything else this year?
Gonna be fishing all 9 Bassmaster Opens, so I guess I'll be seeing you, Timmy, there at the Northerns as well. But then I'm fishing the Southerns and Centrals to go along with it. So
Awesome.
Jesus.
A lot of fishing, man.
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
sir. Gonna be putting a lot of miles on the truck this year. I had to take my truck for an oil change. I'm getting ready to leave for Toho in the morning. And, I asked the people up here at Ford dealership, I said, is there any chance I can just get like a monthly subscription for oil changes this year or something?
Yeah. Oh man, I feel that. Oh, last year every tournament was like 10 hours away or something like that. And I was like, Jesus. So I had to get an oil change every time I went to an event. Every time I got back, I was like, can I get like a 2-for-1 at this point? Like, geez.
At least this year is not that far for you. I mean, Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, we got Florida. Florida's fine. I mean, I don't mind making that drive. Yeah, I've got Hartwell is 9 hours away from us, and
Yeah,
Florida is 14 or 15. And then other than that, everything's 5 hours or closer.
that's awesome.
Like Lake Erie's in the backyard. Uh, Saginaw Bay is 3 hours away. I actually am planning on running a charter on Lake Erie that day before I actually leave for Saginaw Bay.
Nice.
And then Chickamauga, it's 4.5, or not Chick, but Cumberland is 4.5 hours. So yeah, no, they're not far at all this year. So it's like the exact opposite of last year.
Yeah.
You're doing good then. Let's see, we've got Watts Bar in May. Watts Bar's my backyard. And then Cherokee, one of our opens in April. That's 2 hours from me. But then everything else
Cherokee.
drives like 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of the give or take, you know. Put everything in Texas or Florida, you know, big weights, and we have to group them all together like Bass does, where you get into a stretch and it's like you got a tournament ends, and next week you also have a tournament. But
Yep.
yep.
so I kind of I like the schedule. I'll be interested to see what it looks like next year if they spread it out a little bit more, because it's kind of the East Coast tour this year.
Mm-hmm.
And last year it was definitely southwest.
Yeah. Sure.
But no, that actually brought me into the next point I want to get on, was the formats. Like for us, we've got no cuts, 5 fish every day. The Bass Pro Tour, they got every fish counts over whatever they pick for their target weight for that fish. And then we've got Bassmaster, your standard 5 fish, but then they've got their cuts and all that. And I was watching the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit this weekend, which those weights have surprised everyone, I think.
Oh
I
yeah.
think we've had what, 120-pound bag this week off of
Today.
that.
Yeah. Today
Yeah.
was the only one. Yep.
And so, that shout out to Keith Carson. I mean, he had a rough day 3, but dude smacked him on day 1.
Yes,
So,
he did.
but yeah, no, they were talking about how they zero their weights on the last day. They cut it down to 10 on the last day, and then they zero them. And so that's kind of what I want to go into. Like, how do y'all feel about something like that? Like, I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind that, honestly. I mean, I don't. I can see. I say I don't mind that. However, if I went into the last day with a big lead, I probably would mind it. But I mean, you're going into, say you're 10 pounds back or 12-pound back, which on a place like that, that's one swing of the rod. But I mean, the chances of catching one that are 10, 12 pounds,
Mhm.
the chances of that. So I mean, that gives everybody a fair swing at it, and I really don't mind that, honestly. I mean, it's tough for those dudes up there at the top, but I don't mind it. I really don't.
Yeah, I know. Cause go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm kind of with Timmy on that. I mean, if I was, right on the cut line or something, I think it'd be great. You kind of come into day 3 with a new mindset and a different opportunity. But at the same time, you go in the next event, maybe you're leading it going into the final day, and I think that would kind of change things. So I think it could kind of go either way, honestly, depending on which end of the spectrum you were on.
Yeah, no, I was kind of, trying to put it in my mindset of like, when we go for like the MPFL and stuff like that, it's like, you're trying to basically crack them. And then next day you wake up, you got to crack them again. And then, last day of the event, guess what? You got to do it one more day or you might not even cut a check. And it's like, something like that. It's like, man, you could go in with like, say, like you have we've seen the tournaments where guys have like 6, 7, 8, 10-pound leads going into the final day. And then they only put out like a 15-pound bag or something, but they still win the tournament.
Yep.
And it's like, man, you crushed them all week. And 15 pounds is still not that bad, like I'll take the, I mean, if you said I get 15 pounds every day all year this year, I'd sign that contract right now and be like, I'll take that. Sweet. But yeah, for something like that, it's like, man, that guy who just kind of squeaks in. Because I even saw it today when I was watching the Tackle Warehouse. They were like, you almost had guys like pulling up. They'd like, you had some guys that were saying like, I'm gonna catch what I can, but then you had other guys that were like looking at it like, man, I gotta start pre-fishing for tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's like, dude, you've only got 15 pounds, 12, 14, nothing great, and you're on Sam Rayburn. And it's like, so, but they know, to me, it was like, I was talking with my dad today about it, and it was always like, you almost want to make that top 10 catching the least amount of fish as possible.
Yeah.
So it's less about like trying to lead it going into that day and about making the top 10 catching the least amount of fish as possible.
Yep.
And then knowing that I can go wreck them on that final day. So, but that also brought me in, what do y'all think might be the best format and all of that? Because, you've got the Tackle Warehouse now, which honestly, I didn't think you could add another format to everything going on, but they just came out with a new one. So here we go with yet another format. We got compete all week and then zero the weights on the final day and see who comes in with the best bag on the last day to win. You got BPT where alternating days, cuts, every fish counts. You got us where it's a free for all for an entire week and let God sort them out. And then you got the Bassmaster where, you start out and you just slowly cut the field down until you hit their final day. So, no, kind of, what are y'all thinking about that?
I don't know if there's a right answer to that question. I really don't. I mean, I don't know. I look back in like this past year on the tournaments that we had, and I'd be all for absolutely the new Tackle Warehouse, like the way they're doing it now, zero the weights on the last day. Because I mean, some of those days those are my best days, and so I'd be all for that. But I don't know. I don't know if there's a right answer to that. You know what I mean? You got guys griping all the time, but I can catch these pound fish, 2-pound fish, whatever. I don't care what you're fishing. It doesn't matter what you're fishing. Like you have a goal in mind, and if it's to catch 2-pound fish and as many as you can, then you're gonna catch as many 2-pound fish as you can. So I don't think there's a right answer to that question. It's kind of whatever you want, but I mean I don't mind 5 fish. Obviously, I fish the MPFL, so I don't mind 5 fish free for all. The good thing about the MPFL is you gotta catch them every single day. Every single day for 3 days. There's no slacking. I mean, it's not, the weights aren't zeroed or anything. So, but I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know. I really don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that question. I don't know which one's better. So.
I got you. No. What about you, Chris?
Kind of along the same lines as Timmy there. I mean, I think it really depends on the kind of angler that you are and the way that you like to fish. I mean, I can see where each format could benefit guys differently. And, but personally, the way that I fish, I'm a very more patterned fisherman. So I don't really have certain spots that I just go run. I mean, I'm one of those guys that flies by the seat of their pants and just goes and runs with what they find. So personally, I like the NPFL format the best because you've got to adjust throughout the tournament with the full field fishing all 3 days. It kind of changes. feel like it's going to make you have to adjust as you go. And so for me, I like something like that because it puts a little bit more pressure there to stay consistent. So, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of some of the other formats, such as the MLF, just because I like to fish in a way that, I may only get 5 or 6 bites a day, but in theory, they're going to be the right kind. So fishing, where somebody may go catch 80, 100 fish a day and be 2 pounders and jump ahead of me, which, I mean, that's not the case in every one of those events, but it is in some. Just to me, I'm not the biggest fan of that format. So I like kind of the standard traditional 5 fish format and really making guys lean on their instincts more.
I got you. So going off of that, we've all of these have one thing in common except one, and that's gonna be us. So my next question to y'all is, how do you feel about cuts? Because I know even in ours last year, I don't know how many times I heard guys almost begging for cuts last year. They're like, either because they sucked it up and they're like, man, I wish I could hit the road already, or they were doing good, but they were sharing water with a dude who was in 50th place and they wanted him out of there. So, I mean, what do y'all think about cuts? Because
I mean, I like fishing all 3 days with us 125 anglers. I don't mind that. I really don't. I think it makes you adjust more. It makes you like he said, it makes you fish by the seat of your pants. I can't tell you how many times last year on tournaments going into day 2 or day 3, I had really no idea what I was going to do. You're just going fishing at that point, and usually whenever you do that, you throw everything out the window and try to just go fishing. Those are some of your best days that you have, and you just kind of put the game plan together as you're going. So I don't really the cut thing. I don't mind, and not having a cut. I mean, the dude in 100th place is going to jump up there and steal that check spot if you're not on your game that third day. Or, someone figured out something, someone sucked the first day, figured out something a little bit later in the day on day 2, and then they come out day 3 and freaking wreck them. I mean, so I don't mind the whole not having a cut.
no, I'm with you there. I love how you can slip up. I mean, I was casing this last year is I didn't end up getting a check at Harris Chain. Day one went out. I had boat issues. I had to run in, change out trolling motor on my way back out to the spot I was going. I spun my prop about halfway there, so I just point the trolling motor at the bank, hit the bank, and I fished my ass off all the way back to the ramp. I got back like 5 minutes before I was due in, and only weighed in 4 fish. Didn't do too great. Luckily, I had like a 5 pounder that day. But the next 2 days, I was able to fish, and I think I was a pound short that final day. You know, and that final day was still my best day, and I was able to build off of it. So it really showed like it was close. It didn't happen, but it was a good example still of if there was a cut there, I would have gone home. I would have been pissed. I would have been like, man, that trolling motor cost me everything, and in the end, it's like, no, no, you still had an opportunity to come back. So,
Yeah.
no, I'm
Yeah.
with you there.
I'd have to agree. I mean, which, and of course, this also goes somewhat with me being my age and getting the chance to fish against y'all this year in the NPFL. I mean, I'm all about an underdog story, and so I somebody's chance to jump up, from midway back or from the bottom of the field and make a comeback that final day or the second day or whatever, and end up in the check range or within range to win it.
Yeah. Now I'm definitely interested to see this year, especially with the amount of smallmouth fisheries we've got on tour and how much smallmouth move around is you're gonna have events where you're gonna have a dude crush them one day and then just not be able to find that school on day 2 and then hook up with them again on day 3 or somewhere in he's gonna lose them in there for a day. And I'm interested to see some of those storylines where, we got guys who are trying to chase a school of smallmouth and they miss them for a day. And you're going to see a dude who's got, top 10 weights on 2 days of the event, but absolutely just whiffs it on one of the days and see how they fall on, some guy who just says screw it and they're gonna go through a buzzbait shallow for largemouth and hope they come in 40th place. So, but going into that, got our first event coming up, boys. Cumberland. I was real excited when the schedule originally came out. It was a week after the Classic, middle of March. I was like, man, we're going to get some warm weather. Warmer weather. Right now it's like single digits outside. I mean, everything's covered in snow at my house right now. Single digits outside. So I was like, man, warmer weather. Let's fish. Or I fished in college. I fished Kentucky Lake quite a bit that same week. 'Cause that's the same week they always had the college open on Kentucky Lake. And it was just a bunch of cranking. I mean, the fish were out deep, pushing shallow or already shallow. You could find some fish on beds depending on where you went. So, like Cumberland, I was like, oh man, like that's gonna be a fun event. And then they moved it to last week of February. So, and with all this cold weather we're getting, I don't know if those warm rains that they historically have there in February are gonna do too much. So, I said we were going to talk about our top 5 winter spring techniques, our little transitions. To be honest, I don't even know if we're going to be in full transition by the time that tournament hits. Because, I mean, like I said, like it's below freezing in Burnside right now, which is where the tournament's going out of. So I don't know if in a month if it's going to be able to flip around enough to actually start pushing those fish or getting them ready. But I mean, how do y'all feel about the event so far?
I don't know. It's going to be a grinder. I mean, especially not getting the permits to have the 15-inch smallmouth deal. Because I mean,
Yeah.
from what I've been seeing, it looks like it's plumb full of 15 and 17-inch smallmouth. So that's going to hurt a little bit. But I mean, it's winter fishing. You know how you guys know how winter fishing is. It'll be tough. I mean, it's going to be tough mentally more so than anything else. So, but anyway, it's fishing. I don't care. Everything's frozen around here, so I'm just looking forward to get some open water.
Hey man, you can park a truck in my backyard. We got a pond in the backyard, and you can park a truck on it right now. What about you, Chris? You ready to kick this thing off?
Well, I tell you, whenever I was in high school, I know several of the boys from Campbellsville University, which is not far from Cumberland. So I practically lived on Cumberland in the fall and summer during my junior and senior year of high school. And I love it in the summertime. I love it in the early fall. If it's anything at all like late fall is up there, Timmy was right. It's going to be an absolute grind. So it's one of those. I mean, I feel like a man could get very lucky in a hurry if he found the right spot, but you better not lose a fish because there's a chance you're not going to see it again. And you may only have 5 or 6 keeper bites a day with us not having the permit for 15-inch smallmouth. So,
Yeah, no. When I was researching it for, anytime I'd find anything about winter fishing on Cumberland, it was like, well, the smallmouth or and smallmouth this and smallmouth that. I was like, what about the largemouth? Do you just forget about them during those months? And then like
they
I'm watching like YouTube videos and someone catches one, he goes, "Oh my God, it's a largemouth," and I'm like, that's not a good sign. He was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I caught a largemouth," and I was like, "Oh boy, this is gonna be rough."
Well, and if you're anything like me, being from the Tennessee River, the last thing that I want to go to is a lake that is not a northern smallmouth lake per se, but one that you go up there and they get excited when they see a largemouth. So,
Oh boy, yeah, no, I was reading it and I was like, all right, because I in my mind I was like, oh, we're gonna get that permit, so I'm like, here we go, like 15-inch smallmouth. I think like, man, if you catch 10, 12 pounds a day, you're gonna be doing good. Like 15, 16 a day might win it. Like, oh, we'll be fine. Then they were like, yeah, no, not gonna get the permit, and I was like, oh, all right. 8 pounds a day, but
Yeah.
like catching 5 keepers for 8 pounds, it's like, hello, spotted bass. Like,
Yeah,
where can I?
that'll be the smallest weight. I mean, smallest check cut I think that we'll see all year, honestly,
Yeah,
while we're
I
there.
I'm interested to see though if it might end up bumping up the winning weight. In a fact that like someone's gonna have to look for those bigger fish.
Right.
And maybe in practice, if we had the waiver and they would have got on a bite where they could have just gone cranking and stuff and caught a bunch of 16, 17-inch smallmouth, come in with 15 pounds and called it a day, they would have been like good with that. But now you might have a guy who's like, nope, I have to go out. I have to go find those fish deep, pull out some tiny Demiki rig or something like that. You're looking for 18 pounds, 20 pounds a day. And, they're only catching 4 or 5 fish a day, but they're 5-pounders.
Right.
So,
Someone will do that.
yeah.
I think the real question is, though, how many guys could we get in a side pot for smallest 5 fish limit of the tournament?
Be
Dude,
interesting. Yeah.
someone's going to weigh in 5 spotted bass for like 4.5 pounds. And then be like, yeah, I caught fish today, but then someone's going to come in with like 2 18-inch smallmouth and be like, yeah, I didn't. Have fun. Cash that check.
Yeah.
But all right, so we'll get into this since I mean I know this is definitely going to tie directly into the tournament, and we'll not be surprised if I look over on all your decks and see every single one of these on. But we'll start with you, Timmy. We're gonna get into our top 5 winter spring transition baits, techniques, whatever you want to call it. So hit us with your first one.
Number one, it's got to be a jerkbait for me.
Oh yeah.
Personally, I'm a jerkbait guy, I'm a northern guy, so I like I like throwing a jerkbait. That's by far probably my number one. That's yeah, I don't, depending on the water. I mean, there's a lot. I don't know how in depth you want me to get on the whole jerkbait deal, but there's you could talk for jerkbaits for hours if you really wanted to.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, Definitely number one, depending on water clarity, obviously. It plays a role. I'm not too picky on water clarity. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll be straight with you. If it's dirty, I'm still going to throw a jerkbait. I don't care. I
Mhm.
might have to change up colors a little bit, but I'm still going to throw a jerkbait. I don't care. Jerkbait's just a good wintertime, spring transition. You can catch them all year on a jerkbait, obviously, but for
Dude,
me,
I've
that's my number one.
I've been trolling on Lake Erie for smallmouth and stuff when it is after a storm or something. So the water is chocolate milk
Mm-hmm.
and throwing bright purple, pink chartreuse. I mean, they still like you cannot see in that water and they still find that bait and hit it. So yeah, no, I get behind that. What about you there, Chris?
My first one, I would have to say probably a square bill. It's just something, again, Tennessee River, of course, a little bit different than up north, but targeting those kind of bluffed, pebble or pea gravel banks and points. Whenever they first start to kind of move shallow, of course, we have a lot of stump rows and stuff down here. So I'll back off those banks a little bit in 4 to 6 foot and kind of crank isolated tree tops, stumps, and stuff like that. So that's one thing. And I'm not really particular on the color on it. Same as y'all with the jerk baits. I mean, it just depends. If I'm around bait, I'm gonna throw a shag color. If the bait's all pulled off, then I might go to a crawdad, something like that, and just something really versatile, really simple.
No, I definitely get that. Now, me, see, I grew up on a highland reservoir down in Texas. So, like, for me, like, I fished a lot deeper baits and stuff like that. So, like, for me, wintertime, hands down, first thing I'm starting off, deep diving crankbait, just because I hate fishing slow in the wintertime. I just I hate it. I hate how slow you have well, not have to because that bait actually shows you don't have to, but I hate how slow everyone thinks you have to fish. I mean, I'll put a deep diving crankbait on like an 8-to-1 gear ratio burn it as fast as I can and just try and piss something off to where it bites. So, all right, Timmy. What about you? Number 2.
Ooh, number two for me is a crankbait. Definitely a crankbait. Uh, Obviously, depending on where you're at in the country, like down south, Chickamauga, that area where he's at, I prefer a square bill, speed trap, something like that. And then up here, or where we're going, rock crawler, DT6, DT8, DT10, 14, whatever you want to throw. Throwing a wiggle ward every now and then, or a frit side, flat sided crankbait, something. But number two, that's a crankbait for me. And then that gets a little bit more into your transitional bass fishing for me, as far as where they're going to be at, on the bluff ends, where, like he said, where it goes to pea gravel, or that trunk rock where it goes to the slate rock, or wherever it may be, secondary points, main lake points. That's whenever I get out the crankbait, that's more so what I'm looking for versus with the jerk bait, sometimes isolated fish.
I gotcha. Chris?
Number 2 for me probably had to be a rattle trap, especially with all the grass and everything that we have down here. It's just something you get out on those grass lines, and again, it's a versatility thing. I mean, you can go do it on the main river channel bars, back in the creeks, out off the points, and I've actually got one right here. Something that Jinko Fishing makes. It's their rip knocker, and so it's got kind of a hard knock in it, and then it's got a normal rattle in it. It just makes a little bit of a different sound there. And I found special whenever it starts getting cold or you start getting on pressure fish, they're not moving as quick. Just really makes a difference. But get out there on those grass lines and yo-yo it, or you get a 2-day warm spell and all of a sudden they get active and want to bite it, burning it. It's been a really big key player, as everybody knows, on the Tennessee River this time of year.
Gotcha. That grass. Whenever I go down Tennessee River, everyone's like, dude, the grass. The grass is the key if you want to do anything ever.
Yep.
So, all right, Timmy. Here we go. Number 3. Oh,
Well, yeah. What's your number two?
oh, we'll just go easy. Nice little jerk bait.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
Vision 110. I got a couple of those.
Yeah, that's the +1 just because where we're going next. I spent, when we were down at Grand, I was probably catching 100 fish a day on a 110,
Yeah.
but I was in 2 foot or less, deflecting them off rocks. I probably lost $200 worth of because, and I was like, man, I should probably just use a cheaper jerk bait for this because they really don't care what it looks like. But I was like, I quit catching fish and I pick up a 110, throw it back out there, start jerking it again, catch a few, break the bait in half, break the bill off or something, and I'd be like, oh man, this is gonna be an expensive tournament.
Uh-huh.
All right, Timmy, let's go. Number
Number,
3.
number three for me is kind of a toss up between a spinnerbait and a chatterbait. I love throwing a spinnerbait. I caught a pile of fish this past year on a spinnerbait and a chatterbait. They're versatile. Whether you want to fish them in treetops, you can fish the gravel bars, transition banks, the flats in the back, or you get down on, like, for me, fishing the Potomac River or the Upper Bay, or any of those tidal bodies that have grass in it. I mean, it's impossible to beat a chatterbait a lot of times, or a spinnerbait, depending on what conditions call for it. So my number 3 bait is definitely a spinnerbait. I'll have one tied on for Cumberland. You can bet on that. Size wise varies, weight wise varies, but for me it's a hard bait to beat in the spring.
Yeah, no, I definitely think if we get those rains that usually happen, that late February rain that Cumberland tends to have, and if we get that and it pushes those fish up in that shallow wood, I think between a jig and a spinnerbait, I mean, I think that'll probably end up winning the tournament. You know, if someone doesn't find some mega school out in 80, 90 foot of water doing some dumb stuff, and you're like, oh my God. But, all right, Chris, what about you? Number 3.
Well, speaking of dumb stuff, something that goes against everything that I do in fishing, I'd have to say a drop shot. I mean, I'm typically a power fisherman.
Dude, I take offense to that.
I'm usually a power fisherman, man, and I'm in 6 inches of water with a flipping stick in my hand 80% of the time. But Cumberland is actually the lake that really made a drop shot of confidence bait for me. And so I've been playing around with a new little drop shot weight this year. It's Drop Zone Tackle makes it. It's a rattling drop shot weight. And so the little bit shorter leader on it. You can sit there and just shake that thing. Of course, and to stand on the front deck and look at those graphs all day long. And but it kind of seems to make a little bit of a difference when you're dropping on them. So excited to play with that up there. But that's when it gets tough, and I can't be, in 6 inches of water burning a swim jig over their heads. That drop shot kind of comes into play for me a little bit. So
No, I get that. Yeah, I up here guiding on Lake Erie, I use a drop shot. I hate to say it, 95% of the time I ever go fishing. Like I moved up here and I was like, man, I get to go to my tournaments and I get to like, man, I get to pull out a square bill, I get to pull out a chatterbait. I come home and it's like drop shot. Yep, drop shot. Because on Erie, it's like, people throw tubes, they throw Ned rigs. It's like before the water tip hits 55 degrees, I'm throwing tubes, Ned rigs, crankbaits. After that, drop shot. And I will say, I will have to ask you when you come up here, if you throw those little rattle and drop shot weights, how long it took you to stop throwing them, because you'd get a bite and you'd have no weight because the fish just picked up the weight and took off with it. So I'll be interested for that. But all right, number three, it's kind of a 2-for-1, but I use them in tandem. I got a lipless crank, but oh, damn, that thing is sharp. But nice blade bait. I never threw blade baits until I came up here to Ohio. There's a little bitty reservoir down in Columbus called Alum Creek. Takes 10 pounds all year to win. The moment ice out hits, though, and you can get a boat down in there, 20, 25 pounds a day for like just a couple weeks throwing a blade bait. The reason I call them kind of tandem is blade bait is silent, so it's a little bit more subtle, especially the mega bass one I got here. It's got that little tassel there on the end. So that little tassel, it kills some of the action. So it's very tight, very subtle. And then the lipless, it's loud, got all the knockers in it, a little bit wider, a lot, more violent shake to it. So just depending on the mood of the fish that day, they either want it very violent, and then you can throw that lipless, or they kind of want it subtle, and you pull out that blade bait. So that'll definitely be one I'm gonna be pulling around there at Cumberland, going, just bite it, just do something, just don't be a smallmouth. All right, Chris, let's go. Number 4, or Timmy.
Number 4 for me is a lipless and a blade bait. I mean, if you're ripping grass or whatever, obviously a lipless is a hard bait to beat. Even like where we're going, Cumberland, you get on some of those rocky areas, points or whatnot, or flats in the back, mud flats, whatever. I mean, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to beat a lipless bait. I don't really have a preference. I mean, obviously, the Excaliburs, the older ones, the XR50s are probably my go-to 90% of the time. I don't mind Spros. It's something that stands up because you can actually fish it kind of like a blade bait then. Obviously, it's not as subtle as a blade bait. And then a blade bait. Blade bait's just a good wintertime bait, depending on, what you're going with. You can flip docks with it. I mean, back home, when the water temp gets 40 couple degrees, that's what I flip docks with, believe it or not. And it's just a good bait to catch lethargic fish.
Yeah, no, I agree that the blade bait, like I said, grew up in Texas. I did not ever consider one. I thought it was just a walleye thing, up north thing. Moved up here and I was like, ooh. I was like, I need to start throwing this everywhere. Like this thing is ridiculous. And then I mean, how violent they vibrate in your hands though too. I mean, it just feels like you're throwing a chatterbait.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I mean, I love throwing chatterbait. So in the wintertime, anything that can feel like that, a lot better than sitting there and just having to Demiki rig them and hope they bite or something like that. You know, try to snag them. All right, Chris, what's yours?
Well, first of all, Timmy talked Excaliburs. If y'all still have any of those, I think we know by now they're not worth the count. So I'll send you an address after we're off of this. And, just go ahead and send them to me. I'll make sure they're properly disposed of. So, but no, number 4, I would have to go with probably a light Texas rig, like a 3/16 ounce, quarter ounce. A lot of times throwing something like maybe a D-bomb on it. And one thing that I change up on a little bit, this is another Jinko fishing deal, is their creature weight. So it's flat on one side and kind of curved on the other. Just adds a little bit of a different fall to it. I don't want to say necessarily like a flutter, but it kind of gives it almost like a little flutter on the way down. It kind of glides a little bit more. So, but I'll throw something like, as bad as I hate to say it, the dreaded Cinco on it at times.
Ooh, I take that offensive too.
Again, dude, I'm not a slow fisherman, so, but that or, a D-bomb, Z-crawl, just really any kind of creature bait on it and just kind of letting it flutter down in front of them and just another little thing for those real lethargic wintertime fish.
Yeah, no. All right, so for my 4th one here, for anyone watching this who's trying to get all the secrets on how to catch fish in cold water, this is how you do it. You throw the Ned rig. I swear the Ned rig will catch every fish in the lake if you fish it slow enough.
Every species.
Everything.
Yeah.
Like it will catch everything. Like we up here on Erie. Like I said, the drop shot doesn't work as well up in our colder months up here. Once the ice out hits, but we'll go out with this thing. I mean, you just throw it, drag it, let it hit a rock, and just kind of forget about it for a couple minutes. Check your phone, put your hands in your pockets, warm them up, take a nap, pick your rod up, and if it's heavy, well, something finally decided to pick it up, in the 20 minutes you let it sit on that rock. But like any of the guys that are going to the Cumberland event who've never fished in anything probably below like 50 degrees, some of those like deep south boys. Yeah, just tie on a Ned rig, you'll catch fish. Can't guarantee you'll weigh anything in, but you'll catch something. So
I'm hearing about this, the more glad I am I live in Tennessee and not up north right now.
oh dude, it is when you've got to at the end of your cast break all the ice out of your guides for about a month of fishing. It's something. We'll be doing walleye charters and we're have to get on the boat in the morning and we've got to melt the ice off the decks before we kick it off. So
Golly.
yeah. So all right, last one here, Timmy. What's your 5?
Number 5 is a jig for me. Gotta be a jig. I love flipping a jig. I mean, obviously in the wintertime, I go a little bit smaller on my jigs. Weight wise, small jig, smaller profile, and the key for me is the chunk. A chunk in the wintertime, obviously, I don't want something that moves a lot, doesn't have a lot of action, so I'm going old school with a chunk, whether it be a Uncle Josh or a Zoom chunk or whatever kind of chunk you want. I just don't like a lot of action on my jigs. And it's slow. It's painful fishing, dragging that thing around, just letting it, 3/8 or even sometimes a 3/16 jig fall, and you're just sitting there waiting. It's painful fishing, but it catches fish. I mean, it's you can't argue that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. That's it's almost like fishing that Ned rig. You just you gotta cover every centimeter of that ground with it.
Yep.
You gotta let a fish digest it before you go set the hook. So, all right, Chris, what about you? Last one.
I'm gonna have to go with the same thing, a jig. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to throw year round, and especially in the wintertime because I can slow down a little bit if I'm flipping, and I just feel at home with a jig in my hand. So I do the same thing, just kind of downsize a little bit and either go to a chunk or a little bit old school with Uncle Josh pork rind or something, and just really pick apart any cover, current breaks on a bluff wall, or anything like that.
No, I definitely get that. I guess we are all like-minded because I definitely got a jig for my number 5. My big thing though during the wintertime is I like living rubber in my skirts. And then like this one, it's just a standard football jig I get from Old Fart Lures. But what I do is I trim it down, I give it a collar, I turn it into a finesse football jig. But with that living rubber, I mean, you can lay your rod on the deck and that rubber's going to sit there and kind of pulsate in the water and stuff like that. But for the chunk, I don't know. I kind of go with like a twin tail grub, something that in that cold water is still going to have a little bit of action, but because it's cold water, it kind of kills some of the action. Um, but yeah, no, I feel like that living rubber is the big one. Still half ounce. I mean, I rarely throw anything but a half ounce. So I'll throw a 3/8 on some of my, like a 3/16 on like a finesse jig or a dock jig or something like that. Maybe a swim jig, but most of the time it's half ounce. So, but all right. But if you had to go out one day, Lake Cumberland, someone said pick one, taking everything out of your boat. Which one of these is it going to be?
Crankbait and down.
Oh yeah, hands down the crankbait. I got a bunch of these coming in, but I also found a company that's probably going to get sued here really quick. They're using the blanks for the rock crawlers,
Yep.
and I don't know, I bought them out. uh, I was like, oh, we use them up here on Erie and smack them. I was like, I'll get their use out of them, but I was like, this company's definitely getting sued. But they were like $3 or $4 cheaper than the Spro. So I was
Wow.
like, yeah, I was like, yep, they're gonna get sued, but I'm gonna take advantage while I can. Can't sue the customer. All right, what about you, Chris? Last one. You are not last one. You can only take one.
I'm gonna have to go drop shot just because of the history that I've had on Cumberland with the drop shot.
Oh, dude, that would. Oh man, that'd be painstaking.
I didn't say it wouldn't be.
A week of nothing. Like, all right. So when we were at Pickwick last year, all I did was like I cranked a little bit, but that just didn't work. They weren't pulling enough water. But I pulled out a drop shot and I caught all but one fish all week off of a drop shot. And it was I mean, it was painstaking in the summertime. So I couldn't imagine it in the wintertime when like it hurts to breathe, you know.
Look, that's
So
one of them whenever your dad used to tell you when you was little, right before he was gonna whoop you, it's gonna hurt me more than it's gonna hurt you. That's one of those moments, I can promise you.
I believe it too. For this tournament, I mean, I almost bought a heated jacket and stuff like that for this one. I mean, I got a nice rabbit fur like trapper's hat that I'm going to be wearing at the event. I
Uncle
almost
Ed,
bought a yeah,
laugh
I almost bought like a motorcycle helmet for when I run because I'm like, I know I'm going up towards the dam, like a nice 40-minute run and 30, 40, if we're lucky, 50 degrees. Like it's not going to be fun. So yeah, I'm not looking
I'll
forward.
have my helmet on for sure.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I looked at the price and I was like, yeah, a lot of money's got to go towards entry fees. So guess I'm just gonna freeze. So I was like, I guess a pair of Costas and I'll wear like 5 hoodies and just like wrap a towel around my face or something like that and just hope that works. So, oh, I did see a TikTok today. A woman had a hoodie on and she put like the clear glass for like a saucepan in her hoodie and it fit the shape of the hoodie. And she's running down the lake in her husband's bass boat and that's her shield. So I might have to do that.
It's pretty smart.
I mean, it looked like it was working, so I just can't breathe because then it'll fog up. But all right, boys, we're gonna finish this out. I got 6 questions. They don't make any sense,
Perfect.
but that's the best kind. So we're gonna start off over here with Timmy. We'll go age before beauty. But number 1, where'd you start fishing?
A little small lake called Deep Creek Lake. You said where, right?
Yep. Little Deep Creek Lake. Where's that
Deep
at?
Creek Lake. It's in western Maryland. If you look at the map in Maryland, as far west in Maryland as you can go.
Was it a deep creek?
It's not really, no. It's not too deep. It's not, I mean, it's got some depth, but it's not that deep.
I'm just imagining like somewhere like a deep creek. To me, it's gonna be like I can cast across it, but it's gonna be like 60 foot deep in the middle. Just basically imagine Cumberland, but you just like squished it together.
That's pretty much it. It's about 60 foot deep at its deepest spot, so you're pretty spot on about that.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense then. All right. What about you, Chris? Where'd you
Uh,
start?
Fort Loudon, Tellico Lake. Live on the Fort Loudon side, about 2 miles from where the canal connects it to Tellico.
So somewhere people have actually heard of.
One of those on that question heard of or not.
Yeah. All right, Timmy. What is your favorite fishing memory?
Ooh. So before I was in school, I was growing up, my dad he worked day shift, so he would take me and I stayed with my grandparents while he was at work. But my favorite fishing memory would have to be like my pap. Well, always make me do schoolwork before I wasn't in school yet, but when I would get down there, I'd have to do math problems or whatever it may be. I have to do those before he would take me fishing all the time, and it was always so painstaking for me to sit there and do 5 math problems or 10 math problems, whatever it took me, 2 minutes to do because I just wanted to go fishing all the time. But that's probably my fondest memory of fishing. We just go down to the river, which was not even a half a mile from his house, and fish all day, and then whatever we caught, bring them back or whatever because I wasn't releasing anything at that time. So that's probably my fondest fishing memory.
I get that. All right. What about you, Chris? What's your favorite fishing memory?
Probably whenever I was little, my papa had bought a aluminum Triton, little 19-foot boat, and I actually still have it. I'm in the process of building it into a little backwaters rig for my dad. And but sometimes it'd be me, him, and my dad. A lot of times it'd be me and my dad would go over there to his house, where he lived on Fort Loudon and had the boat there in the lift, and so we'd go over there school some evenings, go drop the boat down in the water and get to go out and spend time on the lake with my dad. And he taught me a lot of the old school stuff back then and that I still use today. So it's learned a lot from him and just really got me started in fishing.
Gotcha. Now, when you say old school, what you talking about there?
I'm talking about, I've even had co-anglers make fun of me for this one. If I sit out on a deep hole, I don't just look at the waypoint on the depth finder, I still triangulate. So I'll be looking at spots up on the bank and lining up just to double check that depth finder is showing me right.
Now, I with live now, I usually try and find like the biggest rock or something like that, and I'll try and set up according like um you know Pickwick, one of the ledges I fished it had a stump field on it, and like the third tree in, there was also a rock 15 feet from the boat, and so to set up for the perfect line for the fish wanted it this perfect angle, you had to have that rock 15 feet from the boat and set up on the third tree, and then from that point you could hit the edge of the ledge and you could hit all the trees in the stump field, and then there was like a couple trees right on the other edge of the ledge that you could hit. So I get it, but I use all my electronics for triangulating now.
Yeah, see, I'm lining up off of, that telephone pole over there, the big cedar tree over there, and Joe's living room window over there. And if I'm in the middle of all them, then I'm right where I need to be.
I get that. All right, let's go, Timmy. Number 3. What is your least favorite season of the year for fishing?
Winter. It's not even an argument for me. I don't know anymore. I can't stand winter, man. Like I don't know. I don't enjoy it anymore. I don't. It's not for me.
Yeah, I feel that. It's definitely not for me up here. I mean, I don't know. Ice fishing's kind of unique up here. That's new, but like winter fishing back home was uh, just painstaking. Like I I like to go out and even if I'm fishing slow with like a drop shot or Ned rig, I still like to move around, make casts, and not have to take 45 minutes for a cast.
Right.
Take a nap in between cranks of the reel. Like so, no, I definitely get that. All right, what about you, Chris?
Without a doubt, wintertime. I don't like having to put on 12 layers of clothes to even get the boat in the water and having to
Dude, I
fish.
miss my tan.
I'm one of them people. I would much rather sweat to death in 100 degrees than I would have to put on 12 layers of clothes to go outside. So,
I tell people all the time up here, I'm like, once it gets under like 50 degrees, I'm like freezing. I have to put clothes, thicker layers on and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, people walking around in shorts when it's like 40, 50 degrees out. I'm like, I'll be in pants in 110 degrees. Like when I graduated high school, I worked for the city where I grew up, and like we were doing landscaping, and it'd be like 110 in the Texas summer, and pants and long sleeves, and I'm like, I will take that any day over whatever the hell you call this in the wintertime. So, all righty. Number 4. What is your must have on the boat? Could be anything.
Ooh. Hmm. Man, I don't know. That's a tough, good question there. Must have on the boat. Pair of pliers. Pair of pliers for sure.
Well, I can see that. All right, Chris.
I've got this one. I'm sitting in my boat right now. So, I'll pull this one out to show it. A broken color tag. This one was a buddy of mine at
Kill switch.
it's one of those weird good luck charms that just stay
Oh, okay.
now. Buddy of mine at Pickwick last year broke it the night before the tournament, cleaning his live wells out, and throws it in my boat. Well, we're sitting there screwing around, throwing it at each other all night. Next morning before blast off, it winds up back in my boat somehow. And I proceeded to catch 21.5 for the biggest bag I'd ever weighed in a tournament that day. So
There you go.
it stays in the boat.
Now, when you pulled that out, I thought it was a for a cold tag. I can't remember who it was, but the first morning of Eufaula, I had last year. I had one of the other competitors run up to me and ask me if I had something that he could use for a kill switch. And I just so happened, so in my college team, my college partner when I was at Bowling Green could not use the TH Marine cold tags, the Gen 1 ones that were like, you had to slide them and they weren't, squeezable. He could not use that. So we had some puncture tags, and I bought the AccuCol like heads for them that you could put on the puncture tag. And so I had those in the boat because I fished the college national championship the week before. So I get one of those out and we like go over and we use like a pair of pliers to like bend the puncture tag to where it'll fit on the kill switch, and then tie it to his life vest with some paracord that way. And I mean, it worked. Never saw that cold tag again, but like it worked. So for me, it's purple bag Doritos. Like, I gotta have the purple bag Doritos. If I don't, the boat's gonna sink. And last year I didn't have it at every event, and I mean we saw how that went. So, all right, number 5. How do you take your coffee?
I'm a creamer and sugar guy. I'm not black. I'm not a black coffee kind of guy. Creamer and sugar. Creamer, I don't really care. I mean, I like French vanilla creamer. That's probably my favorite, but that doesn't really matter to me. As long as it's not straight black, I'm not a big fan of that.
Gotcha. All right, Chris.
Very rarely drink it. Usually it's some.
Are you even old enough? You even old enough to drink coffee?
No, usually it's substituted for Mountain Dew or the occasional Red Bull, depending on how desperate we are. But no, when I do drink it, it is straight black.
Real quick side question: do you get carded when you go to a rated R movie?
Actually, haven't had that problem yet. Yet I don't think I've ever actually seen a rated R movie in a theater. So,
Jesus.
I mean, you got to think we have Netflix and everything for that these days. It makes life a whole lot simpler.
Oh, you're right. Before COVID started, he was 12. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, last one. Timmy, if you were a bourbon, describe yourself.
I don't even know my answer to this. I just want to know how he's going to answer this one.
Trust me. We'll deal with that in a second.
Oh, man, a bourbon. Oh, man. I don't know, man. You got to be smooth, right? Got to be smooth. You got to be smooth going down. With a little bit of burn. I mean, maybe the burn before the smooth, though. So you finish with the smooth part.
Want that smooth finish? All right, I see you.
That'd be me.
All right, Chris, since you are 8 years old, if you were a juice box, describe yourself.
I mean, well, since I am 19, I guess I'm going to answer the juice box portion of that question. I would have to say like fruit punch. It's just an explosion of flavors. It's exciting, I guess.
Jesus.
You more of a juice box guy or a Capri Sun type of guy?
I mean, it depends on the with inflation.
Kool-Aid pouches too. Can't forget those.
If I'm eating a Lunchable, I gotta have that Capri Sun that comes in the Lunchable though.
Oh yeah.
And that's a classic right there.
It means he just got introduced to that.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, it was good having y'all on. I can't believe we have a 19-year-old on tour. That's honestly awesome. I don't know who the oldest is on tour, but having a 19-year-old is pretty freaking awesome though. So we probably got the entire age spectrum there. Someone is probably needing a cane to get on the boat this year or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, no, it's awesome to have you on tour this year. Wish you the best of luck. And Timmy, I'll make sure my deposit's in so that your check clears. So
I don't know about that. We'll see this year.
Yeah, but Timmy, you got anybody you want to thank?
Oh man, I thank my wife, my family first and foremost. Without them, like I said last year, I wouldn't be doing this. So I definitely got to thank them first. Secondly, I got to thank Dan at Fisherman Central. Man, that dude takes care of me like no other. So I gotta, his stores that he has are unreal, and what he has in there, and his willingness and his people to take care of you. That goes above and beyond. So I got to thank them for sure. Deep Creek Docks, High Mountain Off Road back home, and Snyder Performance Engineering back home as well. So that's about it.
All right, Chris.
Yeah. First of all, it's great to have the chance to fish with y'all this year. I'm really excited about it, and but got to thank the good Lord, of course, for the opportunity, and my mom and dad, which are amazing support system. They've traveled with me on the road really ever since I started in the Toyota series and all the way back to high school fishing when my dad was boat captaining for me. And just all my great sponsors. Of course, the lodge here does a lot for me, and goes back again. My mom and dad being able to step in and help run it whenever I'm gone, and Kevin from K&K Customs, Dwayne Wilson, Dixie Custom Rods, all the great people at Bunch Marine and Camus Foods, Jinko Fish and New Pro Products, all great people. And Nathan Martin's Power, working with him some this year too. So it's just all great people. Glad that they support me and glad to be able to, partner with them and everything. Amazing people, and they give us all opportunity to do what we love. So,
Yeah, no, definitely feel that. But yep, thank y'all again for coming on. Really excited to get this year kicked off, even though we're gonna have to get some frostbite to kick the year off. But
Yeah.
y'all gonna make it to the Columbus Fishing Expo? Either one of you?
I don't even know when is it.
What, 2 weeks from now? February 11th through 13th.
I'll
be there.
Yeah, I think half the field's going to be there now. Well, once they said that they were going to have live stuff there in the trailer, like half the field popped up. They're like, oh, well, I think I'll be there now. I wonder. But yeah, no, stop by, get a t-shirt. I'll be selling bourbon and bass fishing t-shirts, booking trips for the charters.
Absolutely. I appreciate
goofing
you having
off.
me on.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll see you all in about a month, boys.
Absolutely. See you then.
Stay
Sounds
warm.
good.
See you guys.